German New Medicine, what it's done is it's taken all the part, like how we have brain layers. You've got your brain stem, you've got the cerebral cortex, you've got the cerebral medulla, prefrontal cortex. So each part of the brain connects to different parts of the body. And even then, some organs are layered like your brain. And so you'll have different parts of your organ connected to specific parts of the layers of your brain too. With that, what German New Medicine figured out was that depending on what's going on in your life, who's involved, how you perceive it, how it makes you feel, it's triggered from a specific event in your past, whether you realize it or not. That event made you feel unprepared to deal with it. You felt like you didn't have the skills. You didn't know how you were going to resolve this problem for yourself.
You said about, it goes back to a specific event which has happened in their life. Many diseases build over time, right?
Yes.
So does it mean that same emotion, they keep repeating it, or does it just go back to that starting point?
Yeah, it can be both, if that makes sense. So for some people, especially if the event happened pre 7 or 8 years old, like in psychology, there's the understanding, first 7 to 8 years of your life, you build up your whole belief structure and system based on that experience.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Wellbeing in Me. I'm your host, Indu, and together with my co-host, Meena, we are so happy to welcome a guest who's transforming the way we think about the healing and the mind-body connection. Joining us today is Mala Govind, the founder of Good Shit Coaching and a passionate self-healing coach for individuals living with autoimmune conditions. She is a certified master coach, NLP practitioner, timeline therapy practitioner, and the author of This is the Good Shit, My Journey to Heal from Ulcerative Colitis. Mala's work is deeply rooted in the biological laws of German New Medicine, which explore how our emotions and perceptions of stress can directly influence specific physical symptoms in the body. Rather than seeing disease as the body attacking itself, this approach reveals how the body might actually be stuck in a biological healing process, one that can be completed through awareness and emotional resolution. Through her coaching practice, Mala integrates these principles with NLP and emotional release techniques, helping her clients reduce stress, release old emotional triggers, and restore balance and vitality. Meena and I are really looking forward to unpacking this fascinating perspective of healing today. Welcome to Wellbeing in Me. Mala, it's wonderful to have you here with us.
Thank you, Indu. Thank you, Mala. It's amazing to have you here on the podcast, Mala. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So for someone who is hearing it for the first time, because I heard about German New Medicine only when Indu introduced you to me.
Yeah.
So most of our audience would not be familiar with this.
No.
So how would you describe German New Medicine? What is it? What can it do?
Cool. Yeah. So German New Medicine, I like to think of it as like symbolism in the body, right? So think about when we're at school in our English class and we're studying some movie, and the teacher's trying to explain to us, oh, they had the rose in that place because it meant this thing, right? It meant that they were actually really passionate or they were really angry or whatever, whatever symbolism the director is trying to bring out in the movie through the videography. There's additional story that comes with it, right? Similarly, in our body, our brain interprets every emotion we experience, every thought we have, every perception or belief we hold on to. Our brain is interpreting that into some kind of symbolic meaning and then helping us to process that emotion, process that thought or belief through our body, especially in situations where we feel intense negative emotions, hurt, sadness, anger, guilt, whatever other one, any other name you can think of for a negative emotion. Emotions are like water, they must flow. right? And so when we're holding on to them for whatever reason, whether we for pride or for because we feel like we've been targeted or whatever it is, and those emotions are getting stuck in our body will actually react in a particular place in order for us to release those emotions physically. And that's largely what we experience as symptoms and dis-ease in the body.
In your own journey, Mala, why did you choose German new medicine and not something else?
So I got to a point where I had been trying lots of different things. I did, when you first get diagnosed, you're first sick with something. I was one of those stubborn people who hates taking medication. So I kind of excused my symptoms away or said that, oh no, I'll be fine in a couple of days. It'll be all right, right? And then the same symptoms kept coming back, right? And then eventually it got to a point where it was really bad. So I had to go to the doctors. And this was when, I was waking up one morning and I had to run to the toilet so fast because I was about to go. And by the time I finished and turned around and I saw bleeding in the toilet as well. Now I wasn't really my cycle's really regular. Even through my sickness, I was blessed that it was still regular. It hadn't affected that part of my system yet. And for some people it can. But yeah, so I, saw what was in the bowl and I thought, oh my gosh, what's going on? Is it, and like anybody would, you think the big C, right? You think, shoot, I've got cancer. And so I made the appointment and it took a while to get the diagnosis. We had to do some testing and, sort of preliminary treatments with hemorrhoid creams and that sort of thing, which didn't help at all. And even then, diet suggestions that doctors typically give, have more fiber, have more water, all those sorts of things, just made my symptoms worse. Once I finally got to the point where here in New Zealand, you have to be referred to get a colonoscopy appointment through the public health system. So there's more waiting time, more suffering. So by the time I got the colonoscopy and diagnosed, I did take medication for the first probably 3 months or so once I was diagnosed. But again, very minimal impact on my symptoms. And the worst part was doctors, sort of saying, exactly what we hear, your body's attacking, your immunity is attacking your body. There's no way out of this. This is it for the rest of your life. We'll just keep trying different medication in order to see how you go and figure out what you need to do. And if it keeps getting worse, you may need to it just was doomsday that carried on and on and on. And I just thought, there's no way life is meant to be like this. It just didn't make sense to me. Whether I'm sick or well, if I cut my hand, my immunity kicks in to heal that, right? No matter what else is going on. You could have diabetes. Like my parents, they're aging, they got all sorts of things going on, and they'll still cut their hand and it heals. Yeah, it takes a little bit longer as you're aging, things are slowing down, but still heals. And so why can't this heal? That was the question that came into my mind. Why can't it? If I can heal on the outside, it's one body. Why can't I heal on the inside? Eventually, I started to notice a pattern, right? So I worked on my diet. And because I didn't really understand how different nutrition impacted my body, I was just trialing and testing what foods, how I cooked it, whether my symptoms felt easier or worse. If I cooked it almost like baby food and I still had really strong symptoms, then I wouldn't use that ingredient. It happened with broccoli and lamb. Mostly broccoli and lamb were the biggest dishes, or even spinach. So see, even healthy foods, I cooked it right to baby foods and I couldn't stomach them. It was really painful. So I had to, once I figured out what I could and couldn't have, just literally searching online, I gave up on the medical system after those first 3 months because I didn't want to keep trying more stronger medications and having more side effects and that sort of thing. So just searching online, what worked for others. Cabbage juicing was one thing. That was tricky to start to actually taste and have, but actually it worked. So I was willing, because it was natural, I liked that. I was like, okay, this is good. Something natural. So I put up with it and I worked out I could add honey and it was okay. Add some spices and it was okay to drink. So I worked out what was palatable for me. And that was the reason why I tried cabbage juice was there's actually research done in the 1950s with a group of people who had peptic ulcers, and they trialed to give them 250 mils or 300 mils of cabbage juice every day, half an hour before each meal. And they found out of the 150 people, 60% of them noted had a significant healing of their ulcers within that 14-day period. So I thought, shoot, if in 14 days you can have that much improvement, what are the chances that it would help me, right? So those sorts of things I took into account. I was like, we're all human. There's some similarities between all of us, and so maybe this might work. And I tried it, and it did. It was really helpful in helping my body utilize the nutrition from cabbage and heal. So that was one thing I kept in my repertoire, in my little protocol. The other thing that worked out really well was making sure my breakfast was always a banana, blueberry, and yogurt smoothie. And again, this was someone else who went on their healing journey, and they became a nutritionist in the end. And that was his go-to breakfast. His was huge. He was like a 20-year-old male, so he wanted as much food as he could to do all his bodybuilding and everything. But I just had my own smaller version, and that was really great to, help me top up my gut microbiome with the yogurt and that sort of thing. Now he was using kefir, but I back 4 or 5 years ago, that wasn't a huge thing, and so I just substituted for yogurt, and that worked perfectly as well. So those two things help me get out of what's called a flare when you have something like IBS, IBD. A flare is when you've got intense symptoms for a period of time. And so that would help. Those two things help me get out of a flare fairly quickly. Within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, symptoms were way down, and I could start having broccoli, spinach, chicken, those sorts of foods all over again without too much pain. As I was doing that, I noticed another pattern. Things that were going on in my life where I felt lots of stress, whether I just resolved it, or maybe it was still kind of lingering on, my stress would be so huge, because it's really hard to confront people who you love when there's some sort of conflict happening, right? It can really trigger so many different emotions. But I noticed as those stress moments were coming up, or we just resolved them, then my flares would come about. Now that pattern I was very curious about, because it meant that I had to figure out how to get control of myself, or figure out what was it about my emotions, what was it about what I was thinking that was creating this environment in my body that meant I would flare up, right? And that led me down a whole other cycle. I tapped into Ayurveda, of course, first, because being Indian, growing up, we sort of had modified versions, family modified versions of Ayurveda. But I thought, what does it actually say about mindset, about the chakras, about how to balance the doshas in the body? And so that sort of helped, but I couldn't quite interpret it into what's specific about my emotions, what specifically am I thinking and saying to myself that aligns with the doshas that I can actually help myself process it. It was too tricky. I couldn't get the right understanding and translation. Again, keeping on searching, and eventually came towards German New Medicine, which really helped understand like specific traumas, specific ways of thinking, like patterns of thinking that I had, how that's instructing my brain and then therefore my body into disease.
Wow, that's a journey.
It was a journey.
To understand, first of all, I think it's the awareness of asking yourself, why is it not healing when it could heal on the outer side of the body? Why is it not healing internally? I think it takes a lot of awareness, because mostly we are like, okay, I want to just manage the pain. I want to get rid of this. So what could I do? And then we seek the medical help, and we do the suppressant of the pain and things like that. So with the German New Medicine,
yeah,
is it for every other pain, or is it for certain ailments like cancer or the severity of the disease itself? Is it like for anything? Because when you were sharing about your story, I'm just thinking like from my childhood I had this piles issue. So I'm like, is there any relation with that, or is it for
Yeah,
major?
yeah, totally. Like piles, hemorrhoids, it's a form of digestive disorder, right? It's something not, there's something that is triggering your system to keep your digestive system in a highly stressed condition, right? And so we've got to work, we have to try and figure out like what was it for you, like for example in your childhood, that made you feel worried about your ability to survive, right? So essentially German new medicine, what it's done is it's taken all the part, like how we have brain layers, you know, you've got your brain stem, you've got the cerebral cortex, you've got the cerebral medulla, prefrontal cortex. So each part of the brain connects to different parts of the body. And even then, some organs are layered like your brain. And so you'll have different parts of your organ connected to specific parts of the layers of your brain too. Okay. With that, what German new medicine figured out was that depending on what's going on in your life, who's involved, how you perceive it, how it makes you feel, it's triggered from a specific event in your past, whether you realize it or not. That event made you feel unprepared to deal with it. You felt like you didn't have the skills. You didn't know how you were going to resolve this problem for yourself. And in that specific moment, a ring formation forms on your brain in the particular area that is looking out for those same environmental conditions that you've just experienced. And that ring formation starts to set up the programming, or starts to trigger off the programming from that brain to the particular section of that organ that is targeted by that is connected to that brain, to process that emotion out, to process that way of the pattern of thinking out of your body. That's a way to interpret what German new medicine is trying to explain. Okay. So for example, with digestion, since we both have similar situations here, with our entire digestive system from our mouth right down to the other end, it's fully connected to your brain stem. Right? So your brain stem is the first, when the baby is conceived, that brain stem is the first part of the brain that's starting to form and develop, and all the vital organs for our survival is connected to that part of the brain, right? So if we think about our skin, eyes, mouth, our whole digestive system, our heart, lungs, very important parts of our body are all connected to the brain stem. Where we go through an experience and we think that is going to affect our survival, it's going to affect how we experience our life, it will start to trigger off that part of the brain, our brain stem, into the stress patterns, right? So more adrenaline will be targeted and coming from that part of the brain, and also impacting the organs along the way, which how you're thinking and feeling matches the job of that organ, right? So depending on the tricky part with the digestion, it depends, like if you're having more diarrhea type symptoms or more constipation type symptoms, that type of symptoms will have a different context of what it's symbolizing from your life experience.
Right.
So for diarrhea, for example, you may be feeling a sense of significant lack from that experience, whatever it was happening, maybe lack of support, lack of money, lack of love, lack of ability to actually let go of something that you don't want to happen in your life, because that threatens the way you want to experience your life. So this is where it's important to kind of sit down, try and figure out what's actually going on. How am I thinking about it? What are the emotions I'm feeling? How's my body interpreting that? And that's just an example.
It would be interesting to hear what is the constipation part of it.
I could happy to share that too. Like, so with constipation, the initial one we check out first is if it's indigestible anger, which means gone through something, it's made us very angry. Maybe we've been severely hurt by something, and to protect ourselves, we will go into anger, because anger gives us a lot of power, it gives us a lot of strength. But when it's indigestible, means we're holding on to it for whatever reason. Could be maybe we feel like such a victim, and so by holding on to that anger, it gives us power, it makes us feel like we're strong, right? Could be just that we're so hurt, we're so set in our victim mentality that we can't let it. If we let it go, what does that mean? Are we letting the people who hurt us off the hook, for example, right? We don't want to do that, right? And that's our ego starting to play. So what's the context behind that indigestible anger? So that's the first part we would try and look at. The other way constipation could be coming about is maybe there's something that we feel like is so important to our survival, and we're desperately trying to hold on to it, right? Like relationships, right? The love and support that we get, we don't feel like we're getting that. And so whatever little bit we get, we'll hold on to it so dearly, and we'll do everything we can to hold on to it. We'll go into dysfunctional behaviors like intense people pleasing to ensure that we don't lose our friends, we don't lose our lover. All those sorts of things can start playing into that situation too.
It's not only interesting, but it keeps us thinking, as you mentioned, like it's not on the surface level. You go deep into it. So now for someone who's going through certain things, like I have a friend who's being told to do the colonoscopy for various reasons, but there is some issue there. For them to understand what is happening within their body, what do you think would be the good start point for them to, like, as much as they go into the medical mainstream, what do you think an individual, not just with any issues they have in their body, what is the best practice, or where they should start from?
So definitely have medical professionals, doctors there as another piece of the puzzle. I'm not trying to say that what they do or say is bad or wrong or anything like that. It's all part of the complete package of what helps us live and survive and thrive in today's world, right? What the work that I do and that I got into, it's complementary to modern medicine. So by no means am I promoting out there to ditch doctors and they're all evil and nothing like that at all. That some of them are really genuine and do genuinely want to help you. And the medication as well, it can be very helpful, right? It can. There's heaps of evidence that it can be. This is where you may be stubborn like me and don't want to keep taking medication for the rest of your life. Or maybe you don't like the fact that you have to take medication. Like, I'm not a big tablet taker. I don't really enjoy it. It's absolute last resort thing that I would prefer to do. And so this sort of work is going to come for me before that sort of thing. But to answer kind of the previous questions as well as this one, like German New Medicine covers almost all diseases that I have seen and know about so far. Cancers for sure, digestive disorders for sure, kidney issues, liver issues, lung issues, like skin issues. I've had a client who had eczema, helped her work through the emotional trauma that was linked for her to that. Even with, say, if you have a debilitating disorder through your digestive system like we experience, sometimes you can experience other issues in other parts of your body, hip, back pain, knee pain. So even things that seem muscular or bone related, those sorts of things that have also a psychological impact, a psychological root cause, that when you start to delve into it, understand it and heal that, your body, those body parts will also heal too. So arthritis, airy-fairy sounding diseases like fibromyalgia, a lot of doctors can't even diagnose fibromyalgia because some people, all their reporting and testing can't pick up the symptoms, but the person can feel so much pain in their body, right? So when you have those types of symptoms, and you've got no other way out to figure out how to help yourself, this is when something like German new medicine comes in really, really useful.
Yeah, with what you explained, Mala, you said about, it goes back to a specific event which has happened in their life. But then, like many diseases build over time, right?
Yes.
So does it mean that same emotion, they keep repeating it, or does it just go back to that starting point?
Yeah, it can be both, if that makes sense. So for some people, like, especially if the event happened pre like 7 or 8 years old, like in psychology, there's the understanding, first 7 to 8 years of your life, you build up your whole belief structure and system based on that experience, right? And you may, a lot of the times, your mind, your unconscious mind, or subconscious, as some people call it, will kind of block out or hide away certain memories because it's too traumatic for you to actually deal with and resolve. Either you personally don't have the skill set, and so therefore you don't have the stamina to explore it. You're not in the safest environment to explore it. And this is where talk therapy, or what I do, coaching sessions, psychiatrist appointments, people find different modalities useful. And those safe environments give your mind when you feel safe with that other person there, your mind will start to release these memories. They'll suddenly pop up while you're talking about having frustration with baking a cake, for example, and then you remember this thing where you were 3 years old and your mum, I don't know, did something that really hurt you when you're a little kid. It could be maybe they took away your favorite toy, and told you were a bad girl for doing whatever you were doing, right? Those traumatic memories suddenly pop up. What we forget to realize is that even though our unconscious mind holds memory, all of it, good, bad, ugly, whatever's been going on. Unresolved negative emotions, unresolved memories, holds all of it. Also, we know about unconscious and subconscious. It's like in our adult life, or as we grow up, our funny behaviors, our habits all just sort of come out of us unconsciously, subconsciously, right? And so similarly, that can happen with our negative emotions, with the way we continue to perceive certain things, the way we continue to perceive life. For example, it's how we come up with the conclusion it's hard to make money. Money doesn't grow on trees. All those sorts of things that we say, they are unconscious beliefs, programming that's been built into us from our experience as we grew up. And that's the lens with which we see the world as we continue on, right? When you get a moment to yourself or with someone in a safe space to sit and recognize these beliefs and patterns, you start to realize, like, maybe as you're thinking them or saying them out, and you've got the hurt and the guilt or whatever's there behind that thought of, I have to work so hard to get money, then you feel like maybe you've had kidney troubles, and you can feel some sort of symptoms spurring up inside of you, right? So those sorts of, when you start to become more aware of what you're thinking, feeling, and where you're feeling a sensation in your body, or you've got particular symptoms, those are keys to your healing. Those are the nuggets that you need to look out for in order to figure out, how do I heal? The chronic nature of symptoms, that is because subconsciously, and our imagination is so fantastic, we can bring forward unconsciously these negative emotions, and that empowers us into more of that negative emotion. Like, think about when people rage and anger, they probably experienced something so hurtful when they were a child that all that built up anger over the years comes out again in that rage moment. Whereas if they were aware of what happened in the past, if they sort of worked on to heal it, maybe they could control their rage and anger in the future moments.
So it comes down to self-awareness.
Totally does, yeah.
Yeah. So how does German medicine help with developing the self-awareness?
So the beauty of it is, with each disease, it has worked out, like, what's the specific belief? So in German new medicine, they call them biological conflicts. in something like NLP or psychology, we call them limiting beliefs. So these are the things we believe that hold us back from progressing in our lives, that hold us back from thriving. Right? So like the belief I mentioned earlier, we have to work hard for money. Money doesn't grow. Those are limiting beliefs, right? It means that we feel like our ability to access money into our life, so that we feel like we're prosperous, we feel like we're wealthy, that we can have ease in our life, that type of feeling, maybe in our system, in our body, money can be interpreted like water. And so then water processes through our body, through our kidneys, through our urinary tract, some of it through our liver. Like, so we could be experiencing multiple symptoms throughout those organs, or maybe it's just the kidney because of a specific type of event that's happening. So each disease has a limiting belief that is the core, is the root cause of these symptoms. Now, you could be in one of two phases. So you kind of have to understand what your specific symptoms are, and match them into the Germanic New Medicine scientific chart, because it breaks it into two. There's like two sets of symptoms you can have. You can have a conflict active phase symptoms or healing phase symptoms. Say if you understand what was the trauma or the event that has initiated all these symptoms for you, and you've been experiencing chronic symptoms, you kind of got to understand what's the context of the trauma that I experienced. And do I feel like I've resolved that trauma, or is it still, am I acting and thinking like that trauma is still actively playing out in my life? If your perception is in that type of frame of mind, you're most likely in conflict active phase, and you'll be able to see it based on the type of symptoms that's described in German medicine. If you feel like you've resolved that, but there's a lingering fear that keeps coming up for you, and you're like, oh man, I have to do that thing again in order for me to feel better again, you may be likely in healing phase, which means you've resolved your trauma, you know you've got the skills to handle it, but you've still got significant fear, for example, that trauma is going to come back and affect you, or you feel like you have no other option but to deal with that trauma in that particular way you've worked out how to resolve it in the first place. And so your symptoms are showing more stuck in healing phase symptoms, right? And so for some diseases, that can be the inflammation and the pain and that sort of thing. Because if we think about like when we cut our hand, once the blood clot has kind of thickened up and dried up, we know it's healing when it's hot, right? You can feel heat, that's inflammation. And there's a point where it starts getting itchy, right? And so that's when you know that you're in healing phase. You're like, oh no, itching's normal for this. It's like that's what's supposed to happen, because that itching, the skin's sealing up underneath the scab, and then eventually the scab will fall off, right? So that's those sorts of things we start to look into, is like, what stage of the symptoms are you experiencing? Then that helps us work out whether you're in conflict active phase and healing phase. And sometimes it can be confusing. And so that's when talking with someone, you can understand how the client or the person who's the person with the disease, what frame of mind are they speaking from? Then you can figure out, are they in conflict active phase or healing phase as well, because their language will show you that.
Would it be like someone will move from conflict active phase to healing phase and then go back to active phase and then healing? Would it be like a zigzag?
It can do that as well. Yeah. And that's what I was saying, like it depends whether you consciously are aware whether you have resolved your trauma or not, right? Sometimes when we keep going back into conflict active phase, maybe we've resolved the trauma, like we have a practical solution, but emotionally we haven't resolved it. And so therefore the symptoms, your brain starts sort of interpreting the emotions as, oh no, the trauma is still here. The issue is still here, even though you have a solution to help you move forward. The emotions are full. The emotions are fueling the reaction in the body.
You mean we may think we are healed, but then if there is a trigger again,
yeah,
I may get into the trauma state again.
Yeah, exactly.
So my question, in following up with what we have just explored, is Mala, if someone says like I'm doing the healing work, and they still have that stress in their life, right? And this is complete an external event, nothing to. But then they feel that like I know one person like who has got a lot of family issues, but then um, there is no disease per se to say, but then they are not finding their body capable enough to handle the day-to-day routine. So they feel tired, like throughout the day. They feel like there's a lack of sleep, and then they then come to a conclusion saying that okay, I'm aging. Could be because of those things, like my body is not capable of coping it. How can one even educate them to say okay, there could be something, because they are doing certain healing things in their life, like that could be meditation or yoga or whatever that's conducive for them.
Yeah.
How can we bring them to the awareness to say, there is something that's still holding on. That's a major part of the emotion. Yeah, I just we'll explore on that.
Yeah. That is a tricky one because you can get stuck at, and I think this is where NLP comes in really handy for me. And when I'm talking to clients about this sort of thing, and I have come across it, clients are like, no, but I've been working on this for ages, and I know what the cause is. And sometimes they haven't worked out the specific moment where that's where they felt the most unprepared for that situation, or they're still holding on to that thought. There's like this underlying doubt that they're too scared to admit that that's what they feel. And so that will slow down their ability for their bodies to unlock and heal, right? When you're doing the healing work, you're doing the therapies, you're going through a program, whatever it is, or you're doing yoga, meditation, being able to fully let go, fully surrender, and be open to questioning yourself is a big part of being able to actually heal, right? We don't realize, like, our ego it can be our best friend, and it can be that annoying friend that just blocks things. And so sometimes in our healing, our ego can impact that as well. It's like, I'm so proud of myself. I've done so much work in my healing. Yep, that's great. And there's another layer that you've got to get through in order to get the healing. But anytime we're doing a piece of mindset work, or how we call it, an intervention in NLP, the more you can really surrender to the process, the more release, the more benefit you can get out of it. And your body will resonate with that release, with that transition. You'll feel it physically pretty quickly too, actually. It's quite incredible. But yeah, this is, NLP concepts of living at cause, coming out of victimhood and being in more victor mentality, where you're taking accountability and responsibility for what you experience in your life. The deeper you can understand that at a soul level, you've chosen this life for a particular reason. There's lessons you want to learn at a soul level. When you can start to get your head around that concept, healing is inevitable at that point. You can't stop it, basically.
This episode of Wellbeing in Me is proudly sponsored by Youth Orators Academy. Youth Orators Academy helps children and teenagers develop confident communication, emotional regulation, and leadership skills, which are essential foundations for both well-being and academic success. Through structured speaking activities, confidence building techniques, and practical life skills, Youth Orators supports young people in expressing themselves clearly, managing stage fear, and building lasting self-belief. Youth Orators Academy is also hosting an upcoming goal setting and vision board workshop on 1st February. This hybrid workshop, available both online and in person, is designed to help children gain clarity, build focus, and visualize their goals in an age appropriate and meaningful way. For more details, check the show notes or visit youthoratorsacademy.com to avail a free trial class. Let's say someone had a chronic problem and which is ending up, the final solution is just to do a surgery, even let's say cancer or any other, where they had to go through a surgery. Is there a way to intervene at that point to help them with German new medicine, or is it going to be something to do after the surgery? Like how does it work there in that kind of scenario?
You can certainly have an impact pre-surgery. It depends on how open the person is to exploring their psychological and emotional aspects that are holding them back. And for some, it's too scary to do that, and they don't even want to admit to that. They're too scared to explore that side of themselves, or they may feel like, oh, I've let that go, right? I've said that in the past, like, oh, that's nothing, I've let that go. Since I've been doing this work, I was like, oh shoot, I thought I let that go. I definitely didn't, right? So there's stages to it, and you have to kind of, as your own person, like understand for yourself where you're at. If you're someone who's wanting to utilize German new medicine in your own practice, I mean, there's tons of resources available online to help you do that. But also, when you're working with someone, it's about taking them through that journey, coming from, realizing what stage they're at and helping them work through so that they can release a bit before surgery. The other side of it is, if they are so convinced that surgery is the only option for them right now, because that's the recommendation they've got from their doctors, that's also, we have to kind of find our own acceptance of that. And you can always work on it afterwards and help the body heal. Like, there's one woman's story who had colon cancer, and she got to a point where they actually removed a good chunk of her colon. I think it was like 10, 15 centimeters. So it was a big chunk of it. She did it kind of the long way around, but it still worked for her. She meditated. She meditated to regrow her colon after like 2 or 3 years. But every time she went back for a checkup, it had slightly grown a bit more. It had slightly grown a bit more. This is a colon that had been cut off, right? So when you understand that someone can do that, you understand, at some level, all of our human bodies are the same. It opens you up to the possibility, right? But it's up to you to decide how much energy you're going to put towards that. She put a lot of energy into that, right? To sit for an hour a day or whatever it was she was doing, meditating, sitting through all of the cycle of emotions, all the hurt, all the fear. When you have an operation at a primal level, that's having a surgery is really traumatic for your primal senses. You literally cut it, going under. So you don't even actually consciously know it's happening. That's already triggering off your primal brain, your brain stem. And then a whole chunk of it's being cut out. So in terms of the cyclical nature, the feedback nature of our human body, there's this whole chunk of information that's getting ripped out of the system suddenly, right? That's the point of the operation, is to cut out that part that looks damaged, that looks unhealthy. And yeah, it is unhealthy. It's struggling. It's trying to heal desperately. And so, you sort of, sometimes surgeries and some of the medical treatments can be trauma in and of itself. And so you've got it adds to your mind and your brain don't know the difference. It's just connecting all of the things that are similar together. So if you feel guilt, all of the guilt, however you experienced over your life, comes together and gets amplified. Yeah, same thing. All of the fear you ever felt, if it's unresolved, it's all going to come together and you'll feel it in your body somewhere. But the fact that she could really work at and sit and meditate daily, go through all of those cyclical emotions and tell her body it's safe to heal, it's safe to grow back. So her colon slowly grew back again. It's an incredible story. Really, really incredible story. But it just shows the power that we actually hold within us if we really want to.
So there's a clear understanding between emotional regulation and emotional healing. Like healing, like you got to really go deep in, and I have personally experienced, like as you mentioned, like yeah, I thought like, okay, I've healed this part, but then there's something hitting you really strong. Then I realized, oh no, I'm not yet healed. Then I went a bit more deeper into understanding why am I triggered for the one that I thought I already healed. And then that particular emotion, when I had to go deeper, I it was surprising, like as you said, in the subconscious mind, this story of mine was so hidden for so long. And then I realized, okay, this, I mean, I couldn't concretely say this is the root cause, but I figured it out. This could be one of the root cause, like why it's coming up again. Then I had to then go through the same process of what I did for me to do the healing part in the primary prior to what I did. And then now I see, but then there is some traces here and there, which I think I still need to go bit more deeper to understand what it is. So my question is, how will one know that they're completely healed on particular emotional behavior or the patterns that wouldn't come in their life? Like, is there any indication at all, or is it like you got to just check in as you go? Like,
I think it's a bit of check in as you go. You once you become aware of that connection for yourself, what is it like? What's the way I've been thinking, and where can I feel it in my body? The more, it's like a muscle, right? You got to kind of exercise it and practice it and understand that connection for yourself. And so it's a little bit of that practice, trying to understand what's going on for you. The self-awareness piece, making sure that you are self-aware. Like when you feel your emotions playing out, negative emotions playing out, it's not about guilting yourself or putting yourself down that, oh, I've done this work, why is this still coming up? I'm so stupid, I can't get this, I can't understand this emotional regulation thing. It's not about that at all. It's that muscle. It just needs work and practice, right? It's a habit that we're trying to build, and so we're gonna make mistakes, and that's okay. But that's the point as well. Like, we're learning about how our negative emotions impacts our body, which is not something we're taught from a young age. Generationally, we're all taught to ignore them. We're all taught to do these things to kind of wait for the emotion to pass. But yes, those are good and useful tools to a point. To a point, they're useful, right? Where we start playing out dysfunctional behaviors in order to protect ourselves, that's when we're going to start affecting other parts of our lives and potentially start experiencing these diseases as well, right? So it's understanding too. It's self-awareness, that instant where you go, oh, yep, I understand this connection piece. And then it's a practice piece as well, making sure that you give yourself the kindness, the safety space to do that work. And if you realize that you need to go deeper, you need a quick session with your coach or psychiatrist, whatever it is, whoever it is, then you do that for yourself, because that's actually the real self-care. That's actually the real self-love and self-care, when you can sit down and go, okay, I need to heal this for myself because it keeps coming up.
Or they can come to Mala.
Or they can come to me, of course.
So, what about hereditary diseases, which is passed through our DNA?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Hey, yeah. It's like, and I think it's totally valid. Like, even they don't really talk about it so much in German new medicine, because I think I'm not sure whether they've researched it or not. I haven't found a piece on this yet. But when I think logically about genes, the brain, muscle memory, it kind of makes sense. And it explains like why you kind of have family trait behaviors, right? Like, oh, my dad behaved this way, so this is why I'm this way, right? You have those sorts of things. But it also starts to help us understand like why it comes down to the psychological part of how we feel like we've got all of our basic human needs met. Right? And so if we're with a group of people who think and feel the same way, then we start to feel safe. right? We feel supported, we feel understood, we feel connected, right? And I think like sometimes for Indians, like I think about when going through my own healing journey and what I've experienced, what I understand about myself, my triggers, like I even got a deeper level understanding earlier this year how my symptoms actually came about. I thought it was, me worried about being alone, like physically alone, not having family around me, like they all rejected me, all that kind of stuff. I thought that was it. Ultimately, it came to the trauma that I experienced as a child that I can kind of pinpointed through my journey. The trauma that I experienced as a child, I abandoned myself in order to feel safe, right? So there were lots of situations where I didn't do things or didn't say things or didn't keep up things that gave me a lot of joy because I was made fun of around me. And I thought, oh shit, they're going to reject me. So I have to change my behavior, change my likes to their likes so that I stay connected and have safe family to be around while I'm this little delicate child growing up in this society. Right? But then like me getting curious and all philosophical, I thought about generationally, like all of the invasions over the centuries through India with Mughals and then whatever, the Roman Empire, whoever else tried to invade us, and then the British, everything, right? All those situations, how much trauma those generations went through, and they never really healed it. Though that risk factor for us when we're interacting with other people is always kind of there, and our body is kind of like a satellite dish, sensing, well, where is the danger? Who do I have to be careful of? And it gets reinforced as a child, like as a girl growing up in an Indian family, the whole don't talk to boys and all that kind of stuff. It's like my body senses was like this. Who's going to come and attack me, right? Who's going to make me look bad? Who's going to hurt me in some way that's going to damage my family's reputation? Then all of that subconscious impact, like way of thinking is really on the senses of it is really empowered to look out for that risk. Right. And so then I can't, as me as an individual person right now, I realized my soul mission was actually to connect with myself and just to be true to who I am and just be me, and whoever likes me. If they don't, okay, all good. I'm not alone. I have God, universe, and power with me. I'm never alone. But there's someone else out there who I can connect with, and that's this beautiful community that I've met Indu through, and heaps of other amazing coaches. And yeah, it's cool. It's really fun.
So it looks like the generational trauma of what we have gained through previous generations is all stored in our DNA. And that's what we are releasing. And in the other science, they call it epigenetics, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah, epigenetics, all of it, like us doing, mindset work, whether we're using NLP or RTT or hypnotherapy, all of these modalities are us as humans finding ways to heal that so we can actually do what we do best and connect, come together as a community in this society and do good things. That's what we're best at, but we're kind of blocked by all this past crap that we keep ignoring and pushing away. And now we're good. We're getting these modalities to help us process these things, right?
Yeah. It's something funny I remember, like I just want to share, may not be relevant, but when we get this goodie bag, sometimes that goodie bag not necessarily has all the content that we really enjoy having it, right? Some of which we are like, okay, this one I don't like it. Yeah. Likewise, I think we in our body we have this goodie bag where we have got all the things that we can enjoy using it, like having fun and be bubbly and be motivated and progressive. But there are other things in our body where it kind of triggers and nudges us, like it not being the best version of ourselves. And I think that I wouldn't say beauty, but that's the journey or the path where we explore in deep to understand how we can make this life a better one, despite the fact these are the goodies that's within me that's not helping me to progress the way I would want to progress. But I heard someone saying, like, if everything is good for you, like, what is that you're going to look up, in your life? Like, what is that you're going to do in your life? So yeah, but I think that's how I see it. But it took a lot of time for me to even come to this understanding. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I'm just born a few years before. Like,
Yeah.
my brain.
Had a rebirth. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So
Yeah, no, I mean, just to add to that, I think it's where I've got to recently is that the goodie bag, the parts where I'm not so proud of them, there's still lots of those parts living in me to this day. I think what I'm learning to do now is actually loving on those parts. How can I heal this? Do I need to really go down the deep dive and do a intense timeline therapy and find out it was 7 lifetimes ago? Or do I just need to kind of go, you know what? I know this behavior or this thing that I do or say is me trying to obtain this need of self-love, or connection or safety, whatever it is I'm trying to find doing that behavior. And then I'm empowered with that awareness. I'm then empowered to make a different choice. And I think that's the beauty of it, is like, yep, we know we've got good and bad parts, but it's the empowerment from it, the control we can get back for ourselves. Like we're not losing our power to that dysfunctional behavior anymore. We can repower ourselves again. I think that's a cool journey.
yeah, beautiful said. Yeah.
Amazing. So before we close the session, Mala, why should someone try German new medicine?
I think we can get into a real rut sometimes and feel like this is it for us. Some of my presentations I've done before, I just said, I'm just a girl who wanted to have a coffee, a couple of social drinks, my lamb chops and garlic bread freely. Like that was my honest focus that when I started on my healing journey. I was like, I just want to eat the food that I love. Like forget about everything else. And so when I kept it that simple and I was like, what can I do to just get that freedom back again? What can I do so that I feel like I'm thriving no matter what else I do? That's why you should try German new medicine. That's why you should opt to explore it. Like, how do you feel trapped, and do you want to be free of it? And don't, like, that is kind of self-worth kind of comes into it. Like, am I worthy of having a healthy body? Am I worthy of having a thriving life? And if that's a yes for you, then definitely look into German new medicine or a practitioner, GNM practitioner, to help you explore that part of you. Because when you get it and you can heal it, man, that freedom's cool. That freedom's really cool.
So how can one approach you, Mala, in terms of good shit coaching?
Yeah. So I'm predominantly on Facebook. I'm on all the social media platforms. You can just search Mala Govind, Mala Govind Kesha at the moment. I'm going to change it shortly because it's too long. On Facebook. I do have a separate Instagram page with Good Shit NZ. So you can search that on Instagram. LinkedIn is just Mala Kesha or Mala Govind, I think, still in the process of changing up things. But yeah, so there's a couple of ways you can get in touch with me. But otherwise, predominantly I'm on Facebook.
So is there anything that you offer in terms of for them to come and explore what GNC, German new medicine is?
Yeah, so I like, once you're comfortable with working with me and the content, we can do a free 5-day challenge where we start diving deep and getting into things, so you can work out whether it is something you want to continue to explore. I have a free Facebook support group that I put up tips and tricks and understandings that I've got along my journey in that group as well. It's on Facebook, so that's called the Self Healing Hub. And so you can search for that and join the group and just kind of hang around and see what comes about, whether it resonates with you or not. So there's a couple of ways there for sure.
Yeah, so I guess that brings us to a close. Thank you so much, Mala, for being here with us and sharing your journey, sharing all about German new medicine and NLP and what are the other things that you incorporate in your practice. And this is going to help a lot of people because German new medicine is a new paradigm. Not many people know about it, but there is a lot of beauty in it, and it is it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
It does.
Yeah, when you hear about it.
Yeah,
So
that's
I'm
right.
sure more people are going to benefit from this. And
Most definitely.
yeah, we are very grateful for your presence here and for your wisdom. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I've really enjoyed my time. That if I may, the last little point I kind of want to share about German medicine is it's to make us feel comfortable in our body again, make us feel safe, and help us trust our body again. That everything we're experiencing is pre-programmed. It's part of a process, and once we can learn that and allow the process to play out, we can get so much more control back of our body and of our life. So
Yeah, totally, totally. I mean, this was such a valuable conversation we had today, Mala, because there's a clear link between mind, body, and emotions. And I started my journey working through emotions and then went for healing my physical body needs and things like that. So
yeah,
there's definitely, so people who are working through, you know, um, going through the doctors and doing whatever they had to do for their own physical mental health, but then also working through the deep layers of emotions is inevitable. And I think that's what it's been emphasized with every other guest that we have in this podcast. So
yeah,
that's wonderful to know, and I believe the audience understand the connection, and it's not separate, like mind is separate, body is separate, it's all one, and one instrument, and they need to work on different levels and layers as well. So
yeah,
beautiful conversation we had, and there would be a time where we will explore deep enough as well, but
yeah.
for now
I look forward to it. Sounds good.
yeah, to say yeah, to wind up, but yeah, lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you both. Thank you.
Thank you.